welcome to the Irby Podcast. My name is Pilar.
And my name is Ryan.
And today we will be discussing Henry Selick's 2009 critically acclaimed stop-motion animated fantasy horror film, Coraline.
Yes. So Coraline follows a creative and adventurous 11-year-old girl as she explores the dull, old mansion grounds her and her parents just moved into. She meets her eccentric new neighbors and is gifted a button-eyed rag doll, which eerily resembles her. Before long, the doll and Coraline's curiosity leads her to discover a little door in the house, which transforms into a portal to an other world. One in which everything is brighter and better and more appealing to Coraline, including other button-eyed forms of her parents. As enticing as this other world appears, however, Coraline soon sees through the button-eyed facade and realizes this other world is merely a trap, one she must escape before the world itself unravels, closing the portal forever.
Forever.
Yes, very ominous.
Yeah, this movie is very scary. Not scary. Creepy.
It's very creepy.
Going into that, the main characters that we have Coraline, who is played by Dakota Fanning. Her last name is Jones, and then we also have the rest of the Jones family, which is Coraline's mother. Her name is Mel, and then we have Coraline's father, whose name is John. We don't get to
Charlie, I think.
Oh, Charlie. Sorry, John Hodgman plays him.
Yes.
So Mel and Charlie are the parents. But we don't get too much on them, as much as we do as the other parents. So we have the other mother who is a beldam, is what I heard is how it's pronounced, maybe.
Yes.
Which is some sort of witch. She disguises herself as Coraline's mother in a almost alternate universe or alternate portal. I don't know. In another world, almost.
Yeah.
And she creates another being to resemble Coraline's father, so he is also the other father.
Yes.
Which doesn't have the same ring as other mother, but, I mean, he's fun.
Yeah.
Other characters that we have are Coraline's neighbors that she runs into. We have YB, who is kind of like this one strange kid who lives kind of close to her, but not in the same household that also encompasses other families, neighbors, I guess.
Yeah, so the house that they moved into was an old mansion that's been split up into apartments.
Okay.
And I think...
It does not look like a mansion. It looks tiny as heck. But okay.
But I think YB is his grandmother?
Yeah, his grandmother did live there. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Of the pink... The Pink Palace, I think is what it's called.
Yes, the Pink Palace.
So YB doesn't actually live there.
No.
But he is like a neighbor.
Due to family trauma.
Yes.
Yeah. Other neighbors that Coraline has is the amazing Mr. Bobinski, who is also called Mr. B. He is this Russian circus guy. Who is training mice in his little attic home to do a little circus. Very strange.
Yeah.
And then we have the Miss Sphinx and Forcible. Their first names are their full names are April Sphinx and Marianne Forcible.
Mm-hmm.
They were a duo who I believe they did almost what's it called?
Burlesque.
Yeah, burlesque-esque shows back when they were young and thin and hot and stuff. But now they're old ladies living together like Spencers, with their 17,000 dogs. And then lastly, we have the cat.
Yes. Who
is just some random black cat that YB kind of hangs out with because there's no other kids in the area. And he is also seen as some sort of magical being that can transport between the two worlds.
Yeah, and travel between the realms.
Yeah.
Without it really affecting him, I guess.
Right.
Though he does gain the ability to speak in the other realm.
Right.
Yes.
But that's it for characters.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like those 7 characters times 2, basically.
Right.
Well, except for Coraline. All right. Anyway, how did you like this movie?
I think I watched this when it first came out in theaters. I watched it with my brothers, and I thought it was really creepy. I didn't not like it, but it wasn't my favorite film.
Okay.
And I think in watching it this time, I feel like I'm seeing it in a different light. I do like it, but I'm not like the biggest fan. I've seen some really big fans, specifically on TikTok, of Coraline, and I'm just like, whoa,
Yeah.
how did they even have this much merch?
Yeah, I mean, it got the most votes by far. I think it has a pretty big, almost cult following, but it is critically acclaimed as well.
Mhm.
Personally, I am not a fan of stop motion animation.
Right.
It is very creepy to me. And when you add in like the creepy sort
story.
of like mythology and story and
Yeah.
stuff, it just, not my favorite thing. That being said, I do, appreciate like the immense amount of work that goes into making a movie like this. And I can definitely see why it has such a large following. It's good. It's a good movie.
I do think it speaks to a specific sort of person with almost a specific sort of trauma, to be honest. Like for me, Midsummer is definitely one of my favorite movies. I would say it's my favorite movie right now, but it's because I lend my trauma to it, and I feel like a lot of people like Coraline because they lend a sort of trauma to it as well. Specifically with their parents.
Yeah. I mean, the story itself.
That's why people like Sucker Punch too.
Well, I mean, I guess this gets into our interpretation. So I kind of typed mine out this time.
Yeah.
So
go with your interpretation.
So the story, it is built in this creepy, kooky, lore-rich world. However, at its core, it's like a modern children's cautionary tale almost.
Okay. Yeah.
It just has on colorful clothing, basically. Yeah. So the tagline for the movie is actually "Be careful what you wish for," which I would assume alludes to Coraline's like wish for her parents' attention, specifically for her mother's attention. As their attention, however, is something very dangerous for her to acquire. If it's like, be careful what you wish for.
Right.
To kind of stretch this out into the greater story, for her to acquire her parents' attention in this other world, she has to like sew buttons over her eyes.
Right.
She's like trading her vision, I guess.
Okay.
Like how she sees the world, like this creative,
like independent,
like whimsical world that she has in her mind. She has to trade that in to receive her parents' attention, who are just these mundane, boring parents.
Okay.
So the thing is, I think, is that Coraline is too clever to ever like truly be entranced by this other world.
Okay.
And I think the scene that I would like to refer to is when Wybie comes over to get the doll back. I think it's after she's been introduced to the buttons to sew over her eyes. But in either case, she's like telling Wybie all about it. And she was like, but it's a trap. And like, she's not fooled by this.
Right.
And I think she's just having a little adventure. And then, she has to go back in to kind of save her parents.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's not as deep as it lets on, I guess.
Okay. I would argue against that.
Against it?
Yeah.
Okay.
My personal interpretation for this movie is that it kind of is just an expression of like the world that kids see. Like it's so much bigger than they realize, but at the same time, it's so much bigger because in their mind because they blow everything up. Does that make sense? Like to her, like it could be seen as a fantastical like movie, but to her it could be things that she's actually going through in her dreams. And so because it's like this weird thing that's happening in the middle of nowhere, she's like blowing it up to be bigger. You know what I'm saying? Like when you're a teenager, when you're a kid, like the smallest things seem like the end of the world because it's all you know. So it's like, this is the worst thing or like the biggest thing that's happening to me right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then you look back as an adult on what happened to you as a kid and you're like, wow, that was like literally nothing. And I was like spending so much time on it. Or I was listening to a podcast and saying like how adults really like it because of how they relate to it as a child. But like kids aren't as creeped out by stuff like this, specifically to like the book, because they don't see it as something scary because they don't see how much danger Coraline actually is in. They see it more as like you said, an adventure. So it's not scary because it's something that they are discovering versus something that they should be afraid of.
Okay. So kind of like Coraline herself. Like, I feel like
yeah,
she is somewhat caught up. She's like, oh, this is really interesting.
Yeah, and I think specifically the scene that I want to refer to for that is where she throws the cat at the witch's head. Like, that is like the best thing a kid could come up with, you know? Like, being like, divergent! You know? And like, you know, coming out of it, she's like, I got my parents back. But like, it would be like kind of funny to see like a short sequel where like Coraline is like looking back at this and was like, wow, I was like in a lot of danger and I could have died. And too, when she was like telling her mom like, hey, I was fell in a well and could have died, you know, like,
and her mom's like,
that's
nice.
right. So it's like, you know, like that was the biggest thing that had happened to her that day, and that's why she like made it so big. Like, I almost died because I almost fell in a well. You know, it's like, no, you didn't. Like,
you didn't even come close to falling.
Right. So I think it's like a really deep look into what it is to be a child and see the world kind of as your oyster.
Okay. All right. I think that's a fair interpretation. All right. So, this movie is directed by Henry Selick, who everybody knows from The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Okay, yeah.
He also did James and the Giant Peach, which, of these three stop motion films, James and the Giant Peach, I watched as a kid. It came out in 1996, and that movie is one of the most terrifying movies I've ever seen.
Yeah, I just remember watching the previews for it because I would watch like VHSs or whatever, and I can't remember which specifically had the preview for James and the Giant Peach, but I would like rewind or like fast forward it, you know? I'd like go to my VHS and go because it would creep me out so bad. God, so I never watched that.
I had like a book, like a children's book, and I love that story, so I was excited to see the movie.
No.
And it like it scarred me. I'm scarred.
Yeah, I mean,
still am.
I think Coraline, the book itself, like the cover itself, looks creepy as heck, so I feel like the visuals are not as creepy as the cover for the book in this movie, but it is still pretty creepy.
Yeah, I feel like they definitely have an aesthetic that works with this movie. It's not necessarily just being creepy for creepy's sake.
Right. I mean, it is a creepy story.
It is, and I think a lot of the visuals are fitting. I'm not necessarily creeped out by like the Beldam character, like when Other Mother kind of transforms and stuff. Like, I think that's pretty cool. Like, it looks cool. The color from the world disappearing and like the world kind of unraveling and stuff, like that's super cool looking. But then it's like just the little tiny movements, like the Beldam's hand and stuff.
Oh, like where she's like
the opening scene is probably like one of the creepiest parts.
Yeah,
of the
dude.
movie.
That is the creepiest. Like, I can't imagine being a kid and watching that and being like, oh, this movie's gonna be good.
I can't wait to get through this opening scene.
Can't wait.
But of course, Nightmare Before Christmas, everybody knows that.
Yeah.
He also did Monkey Bone.
Yeah, stop giving Tim Burton the credit for Nightmare Before Christmas, okay? This was John Selick's movie.
Henry Selick.
Oh, Henry.
You think everybody's name is John tonight?
Oh, whatever. Anyways, I said his name was Slick last time, okay? Give me some slack.
All right, so Monkey Bone came out in 2001. That's a movie that I really want to see.
Okay.
It seems like it's picked up kind of a cult following recently.
Okay.
And it looks ridiculous.
It definitely did look ridiculous.
But then Coraline came out in 2009. This year, it's in post-production right now. There's a movie called Wendell and Wild, and it features both Jordan Peele and Keegan-Michael Key.
Okay, cool.
They've been working on it since like 2015 or so.
Is it about horses?
I don't know what it's about.
Okay. I feel like I've seen something about it.
It's supposed to be a Netflix release.
Okay.
Which I was reading, it may come out, it may be delayed until next year.
Okay.
Because they have like a quota to meet with animated movies, so they might meet that already.
Damn.
Anyway, he is also, Henry Selick is also in the works to make a Little Nightmares TV series.
Whoa, that'd be really good. Yeah,
seems like a perfect fit.
It's like built for him. Yeah.
But it's still to be announced officially. I think he's been working on it since the video game came out or even before.
Okay.
So
Dude, that'd be sick. I'd definitely watch that.
He is just, I think he's like a one-of-a-kind filmmaker. I don't know anybody else that's really making stuff like this. There's
Laika,
other
is the animation company that he worked with, and they've done some other stuff which I have not seen. But I feel like stop motion. I don't know. I appreciate it so much. It's so cool. Like, my brothers would do stop motion with Bionicles. Dude, and like, I feel like at the time I thought that was nerdy, but at the same time, like, that's really freaking cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I definitely think Coraline fits in this line of movies. And I don't know. I would continue to see more movies by him.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. So, let's get into some aspects. What performances and or aspects of this film stood out to you?
Performances. How about you start?
Okay.
I want to hear what you got to say.
Okay. So there's a few things that I kind of outlined it this way. So there's some things that I like.
Okay.
First off, when Coraline gets the doll, she like looks at it. And she's like, "Oh, it's a little me," and like that's what she says. Which is, it's cute.
But see, that's like a kid thing. Like, she didn't even think about, like, why there's, like, this doll of her.
Yeah, well, I like the words, "Oh, it's a little me," because it makes it seem like, oh, there's, like, a little Coraline in this doll.
Okay.
Which could be interpreted as, like, being part of the reason why Coraline's family moves to this random apartment in a mansion in wherever they are. I think they're in like Washington State. I don't know why they moved to this random place.
Well, okay. Well, I feel like there's something to do with poverty and her parents. Like, I feel like they lived somewhere that was a little bit more suburban, and maybe no.
So that's one of the things that I don't like. She explains to Wybie that she's from Pontiac, Michigan. And then one of the big snow globe is like of the Detroit Zoo, and her father has a Michigan State shirt. So like, they're from Michigan, which is like, the cost of living in Michigan is much lower than the cost of living in Washington. I would think.
I don't know.
I don't know where they are in Washington.
I don't know. Well, I feel like the Pink Palace, due to its history, maybe the rent is like way lower. I don't know, because I feel like
you move across the country for low rent. It doesn't make any sense.
No, I don't know. Like, I was trying to make sense of that, of why they moved there. Maybe it's explained a little bit better in the book, but I don't know. I feel like there was such stress weighed on to the parents about getting this catalog done, because there was a line where her mom was like, after they had gone shopping together and she wanted to buy those gloves, her mom was like, hey, like, I'm sorry I couldn't get you the gloves, but after this catalog like takes off, like, I'll give you a treat, because it's like, that's their paycheck, you know?
Yeah.
And so I feel like there's some sort of like poverty strain on the parents that kind of built on the neglect that Coraline, my bad, that Coraline experiences, I guess.
Okay. I would just like to, I would like it to be explained. So, in the opening scene, the Beldam is creating this Coraline lookalike doll. And we find out that YB's grandmother has had this doll since she was a kid or something. So it's an old doll.
Yeah.
So, like, it had to have been made before Coraline was even born or anything. So I'm thinking that she's just like, her fate is to arrive at this house.
Damn. There's like a meme of like this cat, this little black cat, and then a black cat drawn on the wall, and it was like, I wish I remember what it said, but it's like, finally destiny aligns or something like that, or like something is foretold. I can't remember. Well, anyways, I'll look it up.
All right. Dang.
But yeah, it just reminds me of like, you know, it's already written in the stars for Coraline to like be here in this time.
Yeah, that's kind of what I think.
Yeah. I like the lore of the Beldam. There's definitely some theories on like either the Beldam being trapped in this house because the house swallowed her up. There was a lot of talk of the entryway to the other world being a throat, specifically in the podcast I was listening to called Overdue. They talked about how it was explained in the book how it felt almost like alive and like it was swallowing her when she was trying to escape for the last time. And so it's almost like the Beldam is trapped in this house because there is like a larger monster that had swallowed her. And so she is trying to lure things into the belly that she's trapped into. Or that the whole Beldam herself is actually the house, and that the other mother is like just a tangible protection to lure things into her belly and keep it there forever.
Okay.
I mean,
interesting stuff.
Yeah. I wish, like you said, I wish the lore was explained a little bit more. I think the idea of the Beldam is like really interesting. It's told that she's like really old because of the children that she's eaten. We get that one kid who's like, "Art thou alive?"
Yeah. That one kid is like, "It's not all bad, miss. You're still alive."
Yeah. Dude, those kids creep me out. They creep me out when they were ghosts, and they creep me out when they were like not ghosts. They were like covered in like this gold.
They were angels.
They look ugly and scary.
They were angels, just like the dog angels.
Oh, ew. That was another thing too. Like there was talk about the how the other mother was able to like project the other neighbors because she was using the spirits of these kids to animate them. So like the other father had the eye, right? And so did the two ladies downstairs. They also had something, and as soon as it was taken away, the Beldam's power was kind of like dissipating or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so it's like these projections that she has created for Coraline to like seek comfort in were only animated by the spirits of the other kids that she had eaten. So as soon as she took them away, it's like, well, they have no power now, so they just might as well disintegrate.
Okay.
I thought that was pretty cool to read up on.
Sorry, I just responded with.
Okay, yeah. What are your theories or lore story things?
So there's several references to witches.
Right.
Very early on in the movie, when she's looking for the well,
Mhm.
and Wybie happens upon her, I think he asked her, like, "Are you some kind of well witch?"
Yeah. Well, I think he said water witch.
Water witch,
Yeah.
something like that. And then the well itself, Coraline doesn't realize it's there for some reason, but there's a ring of mushrooms, which is called a fairy
like
ring.
A fairy ring. Yeah.
But it's also sometimes called a witch's ring.
Oh.
So there's that.
Mhm.
And then her real father sings a little song about Coraline, and
Right.
he calls her a twitchy witchy girl.
Oh, yeah.
Where she like sings to herself later on. And then near the end of the movie, the Miss Spink and Forcible, they're reading the tea leaves.
Mm-hmm.
They give Coraline an adder stone. That's
Mm-hmm.
what it's called, the little triangular stone.
Right.
But it is also known as like a hag stone or witch's stone.
Oh.
And then the beldam itself is like an old woman or witch, basically. Yeah. So I don't know. I thought that that was one of the aspects of the lore that was really well sewn throughout. Like the thread was there throughout the whole film.
Yeah.
And slowly built.
Well, that's another thing. Maybe Coraline herself has some sort of spiritual or like magical thing about her that attracts her to this house. Because I think too with Mrs. Spinks and Mrs. Forcible, like they have some sort of like magical witchy things about them, and the same thing with Mr. B. Like he is radiating blue, and he is speaking to the mice.
Yeah.
So he has some like weird mystical things going about him too.
Very eccentric household.
Yeah. So I feel like they all sort of have like this kind of mystical things about them that maybe is one like helping them stay in this house, like, and whatever is going on with it. And also it may have also attracted them, like called them to like be here.
That's interesting.
That's pretty cool. I do also want to talk about the well and how there's also theories that that's also another portal to another world. I definitely felt that in watching it this time. Like I was like, I don't know. I felt like it was kind of stupid for her to tie the key to the hand and then send it in the same place. It just like, I don't know. Maybe it's like an interpretation to like send it to a different world that's not Earth anymore, to like almost like release her as well.
Yeah, I didn't get the same.
Okay.
I didn't think she was being freed at that point, but I did think when Coraline throws the beldam's hand and the key into the well, we have like a perspective from the inside of the well, and that shot there like resembles the portal, and then they cover the well, and I thought that image resembled like the button. Yeah, like the eclipse when the button was covering the moon. So I definitely think there's, like time was running out for Coraline when the button was eclipsing the moon, right? And I feel like time has run out for the beldam at this point when she's in the well. Yeah, like she almost like super needs Coraline to like survive. I mean, I'm sure she's like hungry as heck. She literally said like, if I don't have you, then I die, or something like that. Yeah. I don't know. I think the beldam is really cool. There was talk about how she can only create what she can see. So she creates like the house, and whenever Coraline would walk off
almost like offset. It would just kind of be blank and white. I think that's really cool. And then there was a part where Coraline says, how can you walk away from something only to like go back to it? I felt like that's really cool. Like, to me, it feels like she has been here before. Like, you know, like maybe in a past life. And maybe that's why she's also attracted to this house, or why she was like, why it was foretold that she would come to this house again. I don't know. I don't know. I thought that was something that was really cool. But yeah, I think the witch's powers is pretty cool because it has some sort of limits. Like, she's not what's the word?
Like omnipotent.
Yeah, she's not omnipotent. Yeah. Like, she can't just do whatever. She has certain rules that she has to abide to, and that she likes to do. Like, when she is playing the game with Coraline, like, she plays fair, you know, in a mystical kind of way, with technicalities. But I mean, there are limits to her, so it's not like Coraline doesn't have a chance. Like,
I guess so. But the one spirit is like, you know, even if you win, you'll lose, right?
Right.
I guess there's one other thing on lore.
Mm-hmm.
So the other father also sings a song when he's like playing on the piano. Has to be like one of the most recognizable parts of the whole movie.
Right.
But the lyrics in the song have like, when she comes around exploring, Mom and I will never make it boring. Our eyes will be on Coraline, which is, you know, both like a cheeky reference to like button eyes,
Right.
but then also it's speaking directly about like giving Coraline attention, which is what she seems to desire.
Right.
And then later on, the next time we see him at the piano, he's had like the life sucked out of him by other mother.
Right.
And he says something about like she's recharging or something, and then he says mother's strength is our strength. So like that scene definitely, like by the end you understand that this other mother is the only true entity in this other world.
Right. Everything else was like created by her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think that's really cool as far as like, I don't know, like Other Father is fun. I like him. And then I feel like to counteract like her real father, I feel like maybe that is the father that she would used to see when they lived in Michigan, but at some point they kind of like became like these dreary people. But at the same time, like there was that doll that she found under their bed that had like the two parents, and like that also makes me think that maybe the Bildum was like kind of manipulating them in the real world as well to be like less attentive towards her. But I also feel like there was like kind of inklings that they were not very attentive towards her from the beginning.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I feel like that goes back to like being a kid and just feeling like we could be seeing it from her perspective, like, you know, her parents aren't giving her any like attention, but it could just be what she is seeing because we've been seeing everything from her eyes from this point on. So it might just, you know, when you're a kid, like everything is so much bigger than you think. But at the same time, you could also look at it from like as an adult, it's like you don't realize your tiny things are like really big to kids, you know? Yeah. And so like to them, they could just be like, you know, like go play, like they don't see that as like being neglectful. But I mean, like growing up, that can really damage a kid.
Yeah. And I don't know how much I don't know how long their relationship has been like this, but it seems like the movie itself just takes course over like a couple of days, it seems.
Yeah. I think it's supposed to be like 2 weeks.
2 weeks? Well, it's
think.
kind of a long time.
Yeah.
But I don't know. They just moved in. They're trying to get this catalog up and running. Like, they are really busy. So it could just be like simultaneously, Coraline did just move in. She's not with her friends. Like, she
Right.
needs attention, but her parents are really busy.
Right.
So it's like everything's kind of happening at this one moment in time.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it seems really big for Coraline.
Right.
And maybe not that big in the grand scheme of things for her parents.
Yeah. And yeah, I do feel like there was a lot of like cool, not cool, but like very interesting takes on parenting and what it feels like on the opposite end of like on the receiving end of parenting. Like her mom being so like strict about like only getting like uniforms or whatever, and it's just like, oh, buy me these gloves, like kids are always gonna be like, oh, buy me this is gonna be like my favorite thing in the world, and like parents know like they're gonna wear it once and then like throw it, and it's like, well, if they're really depending on this catalog to like make or break them, like $25 gloves could like be I don't want to say like a week's worth of like food, but a couple days.
Yeah.
And so like it's understandable, but to a kid, like how do you explain that to a kid? Like you can, and I feel like there's definitely ways for you to like explain things to your kids to where it's not like you're burdening them or making them feel like a burden, but you have to sometimes explain like, hey, we can't do this because of this, like I feel like in parenthood there's so much emphasis on like do stuff because I'm your parent, like because I said so. And so kids, I feel, rebel a lot against that because it's like they're not being explained things. And so they're left to think whatever they want about why these instructions, rules exist.
Yeah.
And so if kids were just explained things in a kid-friendly way, then I think it would be a lot easier to kind of like edge them into why they can't have certain things or why they can't do certain things.
I gotcha. This is Pilar's parenting philosophy
Yes.
101.
I don't know. I think it's a good movie to show kind of both sides.
I gotcha.
So
okay, so there are some nice details in the movie. So when we meet the amazing Bobinski, he's like contorting his body in all these funky ways.
Yeah.
And when he says like, or you can call me Mr. B, he like shapes his body into a letter B.
Oh wow, I didn't see that. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
He's like standing on the railing when he does it. It's fucking weird. Then Coraline, she has like a dragonfly hairpin in her hair. And her bed, it has like this canopy that she's made around it, which are dragonflies, I think, made of like clothespins or something.
Yeah, like paper or something.
Yeah, something.
I do like how she calls her friends little trolls. She's like, who's my favorite trolls? That's really cute.
I did like her mom is drinking out of a mug that says I heart mulch.
Yeah.
And then when she drops off her dad later on, it's at a store or something called I Heart Mulch. Like that's,
okay. Yeah.
Which that's kind of funny.
They're like, I think they're trying to pitch their gardening catalog to like this gardening place called I Love Mulch. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think the mover's truck had a license plate. I think it said amazing on it. I cannot remember. But it said something on there, and I just didn't want to pause it to see what it said.
I did not notice that.
I do like, I don't know, like I do like how the overall aesthetic too reminds me of, specifically the two ladies that live downstairs reminds me of Pushing Daisies. Like the two aunts that would do like swim. What's it called? Synchronized swimming. Yeah. So it's almost they did the same thing, but like burlesque or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like that idea of like two best friends doing something and then they grow old together and like never get married because all they care about is literally just themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Even in the relationship. Like,
yeah.
Yeah. So there's also, I thought were a couple of like obvious references to Alice in Wonderland.
Okay.
And I know we were watching a couple of things that talked about like the Wizard of Oz as far as like the color palette was concerned. But I thought specifically the first time that Coraline enters the portal, she is led there by this like little mouse, like a hopping mouse.
Yeah.
Which is like a weird little creature in and of
It
itself.
almost looks more like a gerbil than a mouse.
Yeah.
With its tail, but yeah.
It's got
whatever.
a long tail, but I definitely thought it was referencing the White Rabbit.
Okay, as it like hops along.
Yeah, because I mean, mice don't really hop like that, you know.
Okay, yeah.
Anyway, and then of course the cat itself.
Like the Cheshire Cat.
Yeah, definitely a Cheshire Cat reference. So, when he's in this other realm, he speaks and gives Coraline wisdom.
Right.
And then I thought that it was sealed at the end of the movie. He is like sitting on the mailbox post, and then he like starts to walk, and there's like
disappears.
He just like disappears behind the post. Which I don't know why. You got such obvious references to it.
Yeah, and the black cat you were talking about, like references to witches too, and like that being like, what are they called? Familiars. Yes. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I do want to talk about something I don't like, and it's a specific scene where she goes out to her car to get that little suitcase that is just holding her hat. Like it had been days, or it has been at least one day.
Full of rain.
Yeah, full of just raining. And she goes out the next morning, and there's a little suitcase. And I'm like, I think I said out loud, like, what the heck's in that suitcase? And she opens it, and it's just one hat. That makes no sense to me. Why she left it out there for so long, and two,
it is just one suitcase strapped onto the top of the car.
Yeah,
like they moved everything else in.
Yeah, that's the main thing that bothered me. I'm sure there's other small things that was like, but I didn't care too much to like look into like, plot holes or whatever.
Yeah, there's a few things that bothered me too.
Okay,
so the car itself is a Volkswagen Beetle, and I don't know why it's so specific. Like it could just be any car-shaped vehicle, and that'd be perfectly fine.
Okay,
it has to be like. Henry said, like, know somebody with a green Volkswagen Beetle. Like that has to be.
I thought it was yellow.
Well, it's like a limey.
I do like there was like almost dust on that car or like dirt on it.
Okay.
And I do like that tiny detail. I wrote it down specifically because I thought it was really like a nice touch.
Okay.
Also, there was another scene where she was like going up the hill when she first got to the house, and she was like exploring the area, where it's like a painting in the background. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then she's like going up the hill. I think that's really cool and neat because it's like they're obviously not gonna build from like this landscape here and then like a landscape up there. I feel like that would be too much work.
Well, I think it's also done purposefully because it's supposed to be like a flatter world.
Okay. Yeah.
So like, why not just build a 2D background?
Yeah.
So thinking about Coraline as a character and like trying to analyze the story and kind of interpret what was going on, I started to kind of like it less and less.
Okay.
One of the things that really bothered me is that Coraline, everyone calls her Caroline at this Pink Palace Apartments, which they've been to before, now that I think about it. They had to have at least visited because it's like, oh, it's Caroline when she goes to visit Miss Spink and Forcible. They had to have visited before they moved in or something.
Right.
So, and then Bobinski has this great thing where he's like, the mice call you Coraline, and I must be overworking them because that's not your name at all.
Right.
Anyway, so one of the things that she kind of fights for as an individual is like what her name actually is. And then at the beginning of the movie, she meets Wybie and learns that his full name is Wyborn,
Mm-hmm.
and then immediately makes fun of his name.
Yeah.
And says,
That's messed up.
"Why were you bored?" Like,
Well, yeah. It's like that thing where they say like bullies have like bullies at home or something like that. You know, bullies are just bullied kids or something like that.
yeah.
I do. Okay, so with Coraline's name, I did hear or read too that Neil Gaiman,
Yeah.
he actually typoed her name the first round,
Oh, okay.
and he was like, "Well, you know what? I want to know more about Coraline," so he just kept it. And I think that's really cool. Like, I think it's one, you know, she does have to fight for her independence identity with her name.
Mm-hmm.
And like it's intriguing. Like, you know a bunch of Carolines, but like there's only one Coraline in it. It's almost like an added interest to her. Like you want to know a little bit more about her because she's like, it's Coraline.
And it's an interesting name.
Right. Where like Caroline, like where everybody's like forgetting that that's not her name. Like it just shows how like invisible she is to everyone else. Like, yeah, I think that's cool. Oh.
Okay. Well, I didn't like how she just immediately bullied somebody else's name.
So another thing about Wybie is that he wasn't in the book at all. They just created him for this movie. I don't know. I like his character, but I don't like him. Does that make sense? Like, I don't like.
He's like weird.
Yeah,
just to be
he's
weird.
like weird. Like, why are you like it? He doesn't make sense as to why he's like hanging around the area. I don't know. You know?
Yeah.
Like, it's just weird. Like, why are you stalking this girl? Like, you can just be friends. I don't know. Like, he bothers me. But at the same time, I do like him. I do like what he adds.
Okay.
Specifically, I like the scene, but it creeps me out, where the other mother...
Oh.
No, where the other mother, like, stitches his, like, face, and he's like, I'm fucked. Like, that creeps me out so much, but I do like it because it's, like, supposed to be scary, and it literally leaves me with, like, a haunted figure in my head.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Right.
I don't like Wybie, though.
I don't like Wybie either.
Yeah.
All right. So the last thing that really bothers me.
Okay.
And that that kind of unravels my opinion of the whole movie, is that one of the things that is kind of forgotten about is the doll itself. So Wybie comes over to the house to retrieve the doll because his grandmother wants it back, and they can't find it. And then it is never mentioned again.
Okay. What happened to it?
No idea. It was never mentioned again.
Damn. I, like, literally do not remember what happened to it.
Like, I can fill in the blanks. Like, you know, if this doll is some kind of, like, voodoo-esque thing that the Beldam uses to entice future children to come stay at the house or whatever, like, maybe the doll just, like, comes back to her. It's definitely doing some of her bidding because it's the doll actually shows Coraline the door because she sets it on the table, and then it is next behind this box in front of the little door. Right. However, you know, something would have been nice. Yeah. It seems like a major part of the plot, and then just...
Yeah, like maybe like she burned it or like also threw it in the well or something. I literally do not remember what happened to the doll after.
Nothing happens to it. It's just gone and never mentioned again.
Oh. Okay. Might change my opinion now.
It's big. What happened to the doll? Yeah. If you know what happened to the doll,
let us know.
Let me know. What happened to the doll?
Reese said that they did burn the doll. All right, this just in.
They burned the dad and mom doll.
Okay, listen. Can I interject?
Yes.
All right, so...
All right.
The entire beginning sequence, right? Do you remember that when she's like unstuffing the doll?
Yes.
And then redoing the doll?
Mm-hmm.
It's one doll that she uses for every single of those ghost children.
Right.
So she redoes the same doll for each person that she takes into the world.
Mm-hmm.
She can only take one at a time.
Okay.
So when you see the doll as the father and as the mother, that's the same doll. She's just re-stuffing it. So when she throws that one doll in the fireplace, that's the only doll.
Oh, okay. Because I was about to be like, but what about the father and the mother doll?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's all the same one.
Which
She
makes
just takes
sense
off
why
all the
it's-
stuff.
Why it's doubled.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes a little bit more
Yeah.
sense to me.
Sorry.
All right.
I didn't mean to eavesdrop. I just overheard and I was like, wait a second.
We needed that. Thank you.
I'm
Reese.
sorry.
That has been Reese. I do want to end on like saying how much I appreciate the animation because I do feel like that has to be like one of the hardest things is like moving it tiny bit. I don't know.
Yeah, and this particular movie, there's so many like small parts. It seems
Right.
like I just can't stop thinking about the Beldam's hand.
Right. And like the opening sequence is just amazing. I
Yeah.
think. Like I don't even know like the clothing that she's cutting. Like I don't know if that's clay or like actual cloth.
Yeah, I
Same
don't
thing
know.
with like the filling. I have to like rewatch it.
I don't know what the hand is itself. Like,
Mm-hmm. Like is it metal or is it clay?
So-
Like to what extent? Like I do remember that they did a lot of 3D printing for it, so it might be like plastic.
yeah,
But still, I think it's like a lot of work for a kids movie. I don't know.
All right, so what is your final grade for this movie?
My final grade is going to be an 8.1.
Okay, all right.
I felt like the characters and the story, you know, like had its plot holes, and some of the characters felt kind of flat to me, specifically like YB and her parents. I wish there was a little bit more attention to the parents, specifically her dad, because I liked her dad, but I just felt like he wasn't in the picture enough to really tell what their relationship was.
Yeah,
And then I do like those were my lower ends, the dialogue as well. It just felt like a kids movie dialogue. Sometimes it didn't like match the energy of the dolls sometimes, I feel like. But I felt like the editing for what it was, like having to do it frame by frame is like really crazy. Like I said, the animation is crazy, or the claymation. So it got really high scores for that. But overall enjoyment, I think it's a fun movie. I'm not like seeking to watch it.
Yeah.
But if like I go to my parents' house and my brothers are like, let's watch Coraline, I'll be like, hell yeah. How about you? What is your rating?
all right. So for me, I already mentioned that stop motion is not my favorite thing personally, and I found some holes with the plot. So I am going to give it a 7.1. I thought I was going to be a little harsher on it, but at the end of the day, it is very well made for what it is.
Right.
And I can't knock it that hard, that
Right,
far
right.
down. That being said, if you're going to put in all that work to actually physically make the movie, then, let's hash out all the little details. I don't know.
All right. Yeah. So we have a 7.1 and an 8.1. We have a direct 1 point difference.
Yes. What's your one favorite thing about the movie?
My one favorite part about this movie is when Coraline meets Mr. Bobinski and he's like, my mice or my act goes oompa oompa, but the mice go doo doo doo. I feel like I've been saying that all week. Just like
That is what you would want.
yeah,
That is what
I
you
don't
would
know.
like.
I think that's like a really cute voice.
So my favorite thing is when Coraline's dad tells her to go like count the doors or something like that,
Yeah.
and she goes and walks down the hallway, and then she walks on the rug, and she can't get like the little hump out of the rug,
Right.
and I don't know. I just like the whimsical nature of that.
Yeah.
Small
That's
scene.
really cute. Yeah. Oh, that's precious. All right. Well, All right, well, that wraps up our little Coraline adventure. So, in watching Coraline, we decided that the theme that we would like to carry on into the next episodes are going to be dolls. So, here are some movies that we had to fish out that are related to dolls.
So they're not just any dolls; they're BEEG dolls.
BEEG dolls.
So first we have Lars and the Real Girl, which was from 2007, directed by Craig Gillespie.
Yeah, it stars Ryan Gosling and a very bodacious sex doll.
And then B, we're having some fun with this one, Life Size.
Yeah, which is, I don't think it's a DCOM, but it might be, starring Tyra Banks and Lindsay Lohan.
Yes, made in 2000, directed by Mark Rossman. And then we have C, a 1987 movie by Michael Gottlieb, called Mannequin.
Where this kid goes to a mall and falls in love with a mannequin, and she comes to life when there's nobody else around. I have not seen this one, but it seems like a lot of fun.
It seems like a good time. Yeah, so let us know which of those you'd like us to watch next. And
yeah.
You
can vote in the comments. You can vote on our Instagram, and you can also vote on our Twitter. Instagram is going to be There Will Be Podcast, and Twitter is Pod From A Basket.
Yeah. And of course, thank you so much for watching. Share us with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video. And this is our 9th episode. Our next episode will be our 10th. And we'll have a couple of special announcements during our next episode. So
we're really excited.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Stay tuned for the parting words.
Have a good night.
Bye. Well, not to worry, child. It's good news. There's a tall, handsome beast in your future.
Medium, really, you're holding it wrong. See? Danger! I see a very peculiar hand.
Well, I see a giraffe.
Giraffes just don't fall from the sky, Medium. Never wear green in your dressing room.
Acquire a very tall stepladder.